go. I think we are recording.
We are live.
No, we're just recording. My name is Dan Benishai.
I'm Aya.
You're Aya.
I'm Aya.
Nice to meet you. This
Nice
is
to
my
meet
partner
you.
in crime, and I consider myself radical.
I usually consider myself radical
As a
too.
radical person,
Yeah. Sometimes I rediscover that I'm a radical person.
mm,
And then it's so easy to get sucked back into the liberal society and to feel more comfortable there. And then there's moments that like from the inside, I'm like, no, I don't feel the way that you do. I
I
think
think,
I'm radical.
yeah, I think it's very easy to feel kind of comfortable with liberals. There's a lot of similarities superficially, and then there's the moment where, oh, there's a gulf between us, and you realize I'm radical. I'm
Yeah,
not quite there, and it's
yeah,
actually a big difference, even though sometimes it may seem similar.
yeah. And there's just moments that I say something and I get this like empty gaze,
Yeah,
or people like they disagree, but I feel like they don't actually understand what I'm trying to
you just
say.
lose them.
Yeah.
So, we want to talk a little bit about what it means to be radical or radical left. Maybe I want to say something about what it doesn't mean. I
Mm.
think, especially in Israel, because I think in the United States the language is a bit different, but generally and especially where we live, which is Israel, Palestine, being radical sounds like you're extreme. And there's
Hmm.
something to that. I want to kind of concede that there's something extreme about being radical and not to shy away from that. But if extreme means being irrational, being violent, being, I don't know, mentally unbalanced, I want to refute that right from the start. That's not what we mean. And actually, at first, I was kind of shy about using the word radical because I knew a lot of people would hear that. If you say you're radical left, oh, you're extreme left, you're extremist. Um, but I do like the word radical so much that I have to use it, even though I know it's going to lead to these.
Why do you like the word radical?
Well, it comes from the root radix, which is root in Latin, like a root of a tree. And well, now I'm starting to say what being radical is to me.
Hmm.
To me, I think, first of all, it's a way of looking at the world. The way I understand the world around me and the way I understand history is from the bottoms up. So from the root of things and not from the superficial things. And what that means exactly, I don't want to get into. And also, in terms of the change we want to see in the world, it's from the foundations. It's not, that's where we lose a lot of liberals,
Yeah.
where they do assume that the foundations are okay, but somewhere along the way we were mistaken. We need to correct this or that, but the foundation is okay. And we want to change that really gets to the heart of things, to the bottom of things, to the material base of historical and social phenomena, which is how I understand the Marxist methodology. So that's the beginning of explaining what radical means to me. But really, whenever I explain this, and especially when I use like Marxist, materialist, these kind of words, I feel like I'm not really communicating how profound this worldview is to me. It
Hmm.
has a spiritual dimension. It's about seeing human beings and living creatures in general in a certain way, in our relationship to nature. It's a lot more profound that I'm able to communicate with these words.
Yeah. And when you say these things, a lot of people sort of imagine that we're talking like hippy dippy, sort
Hmm.
of, uh, I don't know, taking mushrooms, like that can also be very liberal and almost fascist sometimes. But like when we do this connection between, I think, the Marxist theory and sort of seeing the holistic connection of all living creatures on this earth and seeing the root of it all, then we get to radicalism.
Yeah, I mean, we have our friends here. They don't want to
Mm.
be in the video, but they're in the audience, and they just woke us up more to being aware of animals, living creatures who are not human beings, and being active on that front. And we're not we don't eat meat or dairy for we haven't done that for a long time, but it was kind of we were passive vegan. We weren't active about it, and we're opening up our minds about it. So I'm still a bit human centric, in my language, so I want to apologize to the audience there. Um, but it'll get better with time. I just wanted to say that um, sometimes, and yeah, the risk of there's a risk here of sounding hippy dippy kind of, um, but sometimes I think that being radical really is just consistently and truly believing that all human beings are fundamentally equal.
Hmm.
And that can sound very liberal, wishy-washy, let's just accept everyone, blah blah blah. But I think that's radical to really accept that, to really understand that, and to hold on to that consistently, as opposed to saying that no, different human groups can be fundamentally and deeply, profoundly different. Um, so maybe a more racist, more obviously racist way of saying this is to say that human beings can differ from um, because of their genetics.
Hmm.
More commonly today, and even a lot of very nice, polite, liberal people, they might say something that sounds different. They might say that different human groups differ from each other profoundly, not because of genetics, but because of culture,
Hmm.
because of mentality, and
Because of their education.
religion.
Yeah.
And to me, it amounts to the same thing. It's both of these views are sometimes I call this essentialist, where you see the difference between different human groups in their essence. These have this essence and these people have this essence. Maybe the liberals will concede, well, it's not internal, they can change. But for
Mhm.
now, this is their essence. So these people, they're not ready for democracy, let's
They
say.
can change and we're going to change them.
Or we're gonna rule them, we're gonna just oppress them until they're ready, or we're gonna
Yeah.
educate them or something like that. But you see the difference between human groups in their different essence as more advanced, civilized, not civilized, liberal versus fundamentalist Islam, or blah blah blah. The language changes, but it's really the same thing for hundreds of years now. Whereas I think, as I understand Marxist methodology, you never explain things that way. You
Mm.
never label, oh, the difference between this group and that group is because these people are X and these people are Y. Now, there are differences. If I go to a working class neighborhood, or if I go to a bourgeois nice neighborhood, it's a different feeling. I'm going to meet different kinds of people. And I know this. I came from one neighborhood and I'm more in the other neighborhood right now. And I've seen these neighborhoods around the world. Doesn't matter the religion or the race, it's pretty much the same. And yes, in a working class neighborhood, you might want to look over your shoulder. You might not feel safe walking around there after a certain hour. You might see a group of people where you're like, "Ooh, I'm not sure about this," and it's not. And they might be black in certain countries. They might be Arab in certain countries. They might be Jews in New York in the beginning of the 20th century. That was the hardest, toughest neighborhoods in New York. The East Side, I think it was called, was the newly arrived immigrants, Jewish immigrants, and they were the pimps, and they were the killers, and they were the prostitutes and the gangsters, and that was the neighborhood where you felt unsafe. So it doesn't matter who you are; it's the conditions. That's what the Marxist methodology showed me, helped me see that you don't explain the difference between people in their essence, mentality, or biology. No, you look at the conditions. And that may sound very simple, but it's radical. It leads to radical conclusion. And this is where I want to say something. I'm so thirsty. You want to say something while I drink?
Yeah, but, seeing the difference between people this way made me understand that I think for many years I was shown that like the difference between me and Palestinian people is our religion. You know, I'm Jewish and they're Christian and they're Muslim, and oh, we're still humans, even though we worship,
That was
in
the
a
liberal
different way.
education that you got
Yeah.
from home.
And never was I really shown, or not as a child anyway, but later, that the difference is much deeper than that. That we don't have the same rights in this country. That we're not equal, even if we, oh no, we worship the same God. And I think that when I see like the really the deep, deep, deep root equality of humans, um, it just makes me yearn to turn this entire system on its head, in so many ways, in the way we in the way the economics work, in the way the religion works, in the way that statehood works, um, in the way we treat the earth. Like I feel like the root of the radical thought always brings me back to our relationship with nature,
Mm.
and how, yeah, humans are equal, but like we are also equal to this earth, and this earth is equal to us. And right now there's like terrible imbalance, and it's connected. Like the disconnection of us from other humans is equal to the disconnection of us with the land, with other animals. Um, and it's leading us all to terrible destruction.
Well, you jumped right into it, like the so-called Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Um, and that's an example where just assuming that all human beings are fundamentally equal is actually very radical,
Yeah.
both in the term that it gets at the root of things, but also in that extreme. This is where I want to concede that there is something extreme about being radical, in the sense that if you're going to critique a certain society from the bottom, from the foundations, of course that society will gonna be is gonna feel threatened. Of course, the majority consciousness of that society is not going to understand you because this is the ground that they're standing on. They don't want to question the ground that they're standing on, that their whole lives, their power, their rights, their
Their
privilege, their
history, their
history, their identity.
mythology. Yeah.
You shake all of that, so of course you're going to seem a little bit crazy. Of course, you're going to be in a minority. So yeah, being radical is extreme in that sense, but I don't think it's extreme in the sense of being mentally unbalanced. If anything, being radicalized brought me a lot of stability actually,
Hmm.
and mental health.
And we don't have to stay in that mindset of, oh, humans kill each other because we are, like we're monkeys actually. It's like, no, if you believe in human brilliance and human ability to make worlds and create life, then we should do better than what we're doing right now. We can do better. And I think that's what's been driving us, what's still giving us hope to continue thinking this way. It's like we can do better. We can treat other humans better. We can treat animals better. We can treat the earth better. Why shouldn't we?
Well, I think once you open your eyes and understand what is going on and what we are doing, saying that we can do better is such an understatement. Like the monstrosity of everything that's going on. It's to say that we can do better than this.
We can do better
we
than
have
this.
to, we have to stop doing these monstrosities to animals. And what we're criticizing, there's nothing natural about it. There's
No.
nothing natural about modern industrial societies changing the face of the planet, exterminating animals in the billions. Um, Nothing natural about what we're seeing and what we're criticizing here. Um,
Yeah, but we're fighting against another system in place that people claim to be the best that we can do
and well, that's another thing I wanted to say. Every system of domination claims
to be.
has some kind of propaganda or some kind of consciousness that, of course, justifies itself. And the justifications throughout the centuries, throughout the millennia, have been quite the same. It's quite repetitive. And one of the things is to say it's natural.
Mm.
Slavery was natural, of
Mm.
course, and so on and so forth.
And now capitalism is natural.
Yeah, capitalism is natural. Um, Anyway, these are the kind of things we want to talk about on this channel or in this podcast or whatever this is. We're just making this as we go along. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it's like I said, I think it's a very profound thing to be radical, and it's something that we're gonna want to continue to communicate and also to explore.
And to find other like-minded people and keep
Mhm.
growing this community of radical thinking people, because we need more people.
And we want to talk about capitalism. We want to talk about uh, and capitalism is a lot. It's the food industry, it's the sex industry, it's the entertainment industry, it's
The
the
war
energy and
industry.
auto industry and the arms industry and so on. And we want to talk about the patriarchy, and we
Hmm.
want to talk about colonialism, and we want to talk about difficult things like genocide, and
we want to talk about reproductive rights
reproductive
and
rights.
reproductive justice and maybe justice for animals and justice for the earth. Maybe talk about how we can imagine a better future and what actions we can take right now to start making that future our reality.
And I think one thing that's going to be at the center throughout all of this, because of where we live, because of how we grew up, we are born and raised as Jewish Israeli Zionist. Um, so everything that's going on here is very much at the center of our attention, and we're going to talk about this a lot. And of course, to be radical in Israel, in Israeli society, is very unusual. And so if you want to, I don't know, get to know a couple of very unusual people, here we are.
Here we are.
And our friends are going to be on screen at some point in the future here as well.
So, welcome to Radix.
Yeah,
Please follow and join. We'll also be on Instagram and on Facebook,
maybe,
maybe.
whatever.
Please be part of this revolution.
All right.